Josh Zwagil here, CEO, founder of My Daily Choice, and we also have Mr. Todd Falcone. So if you're just joining us, throw a comment or message in the chat. Let us know who you are and what state or country you're joining us from today. Let's see. We got Vegas in the house, Seattle, Ireland, Florida, Long Island, New York, Lake Tahoe, Georgia, Vancouver, Washington, Delaware, Tennessee.
Can you read that fast?
Kentucky, going fast now. Maryland, Italy, Missouri, Michigan. Wow. All right, so we're going to give it just a couple minutes, guys. We're going to let everybody pile on. Let's see, we've got, it's just going so fast. North Carolina, Connecticut, Pittsburgh. But welcome, guys. Todd and I are really excited to do this training. As you guys know, Todd has spoken at several of our conventions, and we've done a couple different, leadership training calls with Todd. But he's been around the industry for a long time. He's been an author. He's written several of the top-selling books in the industry. He's spoken on stage in front of tens of thousands of people. But he's also just been super dedicated to helping people in the industry become network marketing professionals. So I love getting to do kind of these real talk training sessions with Todd. So we're really excited to do this one today. We've got some really good topics that we're going to share with you guys. And then Todd's got some information at the end of this call for if you guys want, additional training. But with that said, let me just kind of set the stage for you guys, and then I'm going to kick it over to Todd to let him, start this off. And just so you guys know, this is not a scripted training or anything like that at all. Todd and I are literally just going to have about a 1-hour conversation about leadership and some of the hot topics, for becoming a top leader in this industry, what it really takes, how to get to the next level, how to become, a long-lasting leader in this industry, and what you all can be doing to really maximize success in your My Daily Choice business. So we're not going to have slides on this. We're not going to be, doing anything scripted at all. Todd and I are just going to be kind of bouncing back and forth on some real topics that are critical for your business. So if you guys are here, I assume that you all want to be top leaders in this business. So just throw a message in the chat. Why don't you just put top leader in the chat? If you want to be a top leader in My Daily Choice, throw it in the chat. I want to see how many of you, wow, that's really cool to see that flying up. Wow. Okay. So everybody here wants to be a top leader. So we're going to cover some of these really important topics. So with that said, Todd, talk to us, my friend, and welcome to the call.
What's up, Josh? Oh, this is fun. I love doing these off-the-cuff conversations. Great to be with your team again. Wow, where to start? Well, obviously, we're talking about leadership here. Most of you guys obviously are familiar with me. I've been around doing a lot of trainings for you. I think I've spoken at all of your conferences thus far, and my book's been in your distributor kit for the past few years, so most people are familiar with me. But, I spent 30 years in the network marketing profession, and I've seen a lot of people come and go. And I like when people come into the business, but when they go, I'm like, why did you go? It's such a beautiful business to be in. I've seen people come into the business and last for a little bit, but then not be able to last long term. And most of the time it's because they're lacking in leadership skills. You guys are in such a great company at such an amazing time. In fact, one of the reasons that I've done so much work with you guys is just because I feel so good about what Josh and Jenna have put together for you. You got an amazing compensation plan. You've got great corporate leadership, great founders. You got great field leadership. You got amazing products. You got amazing products at an incredible time. I mean, when you guys came out with CBD products, it couldn't have been a better time. And many of you have had a chance to ride this amazing CBD wave over the last, 20? I mean, how long have you had CBD out now? 24?
since 2017. So it's really been about 3 years now.
Okay.
Or 2.5 years.
So, and there's a lot of people that I know that have done exceptionally well in the business. And what I want to see happen for all of you that have been around for a little while is to make sure that you last in the business and that you have long-term success. And for those of you that are just getting started, that you understand and know what you need to do from a leadership perspective to, first of all, create success, and then, make it a life for you. And for me, it's 30 years of being in the network marketing profession without having to go back and get a job. And that doesn't happen by accident. So because of like where you guys are as a company, expanding into, new product extensions and new markets, new international markets and all of that, I just think it's a really good time to have a strong and very straightforward leadership discussion, because in my opinion, the only way for you to succeed is you have to learn how to lead. Because if you're not can I just be blunt, Josh, or is that cool? Can I just be straight? All right. So look, there are some people here that were very fortunate to come in at a time when nobody knew what CBD was, and literally were able to ride this cresting wave of what was happening in the CBD space, like just the market awareness of CBD, and have done very, very well. But I think that some of those people, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, obviously, but some people didn't necessarily focus on how can I grow and develop me to make sure I sustain that growth and continue to develop additional leaders within my organization so that it continues to last and you develop even more leaders long term. Because let me just say this, you can't just ride the CBD wave and have long-term success. You've got to develop yourself and understand what is necessary to and what it really means to be a leader in the network marketing profession. So Josh and I chatted a couple weeks ago, thought it would be a good time to come out and have a conversation. It was funny, Josh, the other day you said something to me, I don't know if it was last week or whatever, we're talking about phase one. And I don't know where you got that, because when I first started in network marketing, the term phase one, that was like really like, I literally heard that. Phase one is when you're personally recruiting and gathering customers. That's like the phase you should be in. And there's phase one, and that's personally recruiting, personally bringing customers, personal production. Yes, you're working with your team, but you're in total personal production mode, not into the opposite of that, which is management mode. And that's something that I think a lot of people find themselves getting into. You start making a little bit of money, and then you think you got to go manage your team, when, yeah, you do need to be working with your team and inspiring your team through your actions. But being in phase one personal production, I'd ask yourself, are you in phase one personal production right now, or have you slipped even ever slightly into management mode? And Josh, I know you, so what does phase one mean to you? Does that, where did you first hear that?
I don't actually know where I heard phase one. I think for me, phase one has always just been the notion that you never are taking your foot off the gas for prospecting and enrolling. Because at the end of the day, there's only one door to the money in network marketing, and that's, taking massive action and having the biggest reach that you possibly can have. So I've always focused the majority of my time on phase one, but I agree with what you're saying, that I think a lot of leaders slip and go into management mode. And I would say it's for a couple of reasons. One, people hit a rank. So if you hit a pin level or a rank, to some people, that's like, okay, it's time to slow down, right? And then I think another reason is people get comfortable. So like if you hit a rank, you're just comfortable with, your team that's growing. Or I think the third reason would be that people just kind of get burnt out in doing the work themselves. They get burnt out of staying consistent with prospecting. So that's what I've seen. And I've always spent, the majority of my time on personal production and prospecting.
Yeah, and it's obviously easier to work with other people's prospects than it is your own. Going out and developing your own prospects, prospecting yourself is definitely harder work than assisting your team. Now we have to assist our team, that's for sure. But in fact, I had a conversation. Let me give you an example. I had this conversation with a woman like 2 months ago. Not an MDC, but she's in another company. In the last 4.5 years, she made 1.5 million. Which is pretty good in 4.5 years, right? 1.5 million. She was making about $50,000 a year before that. And she stopped doing the things that got her to that level of income. And then she completely shifted over to just kind of working with the people in the team, running Zooms, running calls, doing Facebook group stuff, whatever. And then her check went, of course, it adjusted and it slipped so far that she told me the other day, she goes, I'm considering going to get a job. I'm like, whoa. How can you consider going to get a job? You made 1.5. In fact, she even said, I just don't know if I believe it anymore. And I was on the phone with her and I just wanted to just grab her around the throat. I would never do that, of course, because that's not nice. But I'm sitting here going, girl, what are you talking about? You made 1.5 million in the last 4 years. Why did your check slip? Well, and she knows why it slipped. In fact, some of you guys know it, have plugged into some of my trainings. I call it the kiss of death in network marketing. It's when you go from personal recruiting and sponsoring and starting reps and launching reps and new customers to, just I'm now working with my team. And that to me is not leadership. Leadership is being the example for other people to follow. And that phase one, you got to ask yourself, okay, you're here, you're watching Josh and I, ask yourself a question. Are you in phase one? Are you in phase 2, 3, or 4? If you're in phase 4, you're in big trouble. Phase 2, you're in trouble. Phase 1 is always continuing to work and develop new business. And I don't know how, Josh, I think you and I are pretty similar in this, I don't know. I think we've discussed it, but it's like, I'm in my happiest state when I'm producing, right? If I don't feel like if I'm not producing new production, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not in my happiest state. But that's me. And I know that you're like that too. But you guys that are watching, you just need to know that if you're going to grow this thing and if you're going to grow it so that it lasts and you have this income for an extended period of time, like way down the road, you have to stay in phase 1. Can I say this? Well, I'll just say it. I don't even care. I'm just going to say it. So somebody asked me the other day, like, when can I lay back? And I'll tell you when you can lay back. You want to know when you can lay back? And I think Josh might give you permission to probably take a little vacation for a week or two after this. So you can lay back when your house is paid for, when your cars are paid for, when your kids' college educations are funded, when you have zero debt and you have $1 million cash minimum in the bank. When you're there, then you can go, you know what? I think I might take a little 2-week vacation. I'm not saying you can't play in the interim, but you can't go into like this management mode until you're at that place. So if your cars aren't paid for, your house isn't paid for. I'm not talking about having a mortgage. The house is paid for, man. Cars are paid for. Kids' college educations are funded, and you got $1 million in cash sitting in the bank. I think you're probably in a pretty good spot at that point. I don't know. Is that, did I just tell everybody to stop working, or did I motivate them to maybe work a little harder?
Well, I think there's a couple things too. Like, well, one, the lady that you mentioned, one, she needs her CBD. 2, she needs to go into phase 1. But on a side note, one thing that I've realized is that part of being a leader is that your team is going to follow exactly what you do. So if you're not in phase 1 and you're managing your team, guess what your team's going to be doing? They're going to be managing their people because their leader, being you, is not on the leaderboard, not prospecting, not bringing in new waves of leadership, not doing personal production. So, you don't want to be a leader that's duplicating managers. You want to duplicate producers, and if you could think of it like, if you had a bunch of like physical locations, like if this was a franchise, would you want a bunch of locations that had the best people working for you that were prospecting every single person that came into the location? Or would you want people working the register, managing, not trying to drive business, right? So if you look at it like a real business, every person you have in your organization has a certain level of reach, and it's based on it's a direct correlation to how much time they're investing in talking to new people. So if you're not preaching that to your team and you're not doing that, setting the example as the leader of your organization, it's very difficult to drive that with duplication. So I think it not only can it help you build your own personal income, but it's a great way to set the pace for your team and show your team that this is the right activity that we should be doing is put your foot on the gas. How many people can you reach throughout your organization? So I think you hit the nail on the head with that, Todd.
Well, and the other part of it is, and you mentioned, look, what else do we do in the business other than bring in new customers and new reps? I mean, that is, and when I simplify network marketing, we do two things. We get people in and we keep them in. That's it. We get customers in and we do things to keep the customers. We get our reps in and we do everything to keep our reps. But the other thing you have to understand is, even if you're really good at working with your people, and let's say you build 2 rank. I'm a fan of building through rank, and we'll talk about that. Building through rank versus building 2 rank. But let's say you build 2 rank. Let's say you build to 25K, 100K, 250K, and then you stop. Well, or you go take a vacation, or you stop doing the things that got you 2 rank. Then the reality is, as good as you might be, even if you're an exceptional leader, some people are going to leave. Some people are going to stop. Some people are going to lose interest. Look, here's the deal. As hot as you are, as good as you guys are as a company, as much money as people are making, as great of the results as people are getting, the truth is that even in the greatest opportunities, people are going to drop out. So that is always why what's kept me. It's like, I got to keep building to replace the ones that aren't going to continue. And that also, for example, and I know I'm not going to go into, I understand your compensation plan enough to know this, but when you hit rank, whatever that rank is, 5K, 25K, 100K, 250, 500K, super affiliate, whatever. If it was me, if I hit 25K, I'm personally building to 40K. I'm building to well past that rank, because to get the title is one thing. It's nice to have the title, but I'd personally rather be the highest paid 25K rather than the lowest paid 100K, if you follow my thinking here. And that goes to building for stability versus building for just having the title. Because I don't know. I mean, I think in your comp plan, like if I'm not mistaken, you could hit 100K and you have the title of 100K, but then you potentially, if you don't make that volume, you're not paid as. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, you make a really good point. The compensation plan is super lucrative, but when you, like I've always said this, when you go to the bank, when have they ever asked you what rank are you in your MLM company?
Yeah.
Never, it never happens. So you make a good point that you should focus on volume, focus on production, focus on prospecting, because at the end of the day, I mean, look, we want, as a company owner, I want everybody to hit rank, but rank is just a title. It's just a position, right? At the end of the day, you have to be a top income earner. You have to produce a lot of volume. And the way you do that is through getting into phase 1 and then teaching your team how to get into phase 1 as well.
Yeah. And because you have a title, that does not make you a leader. Okay. In fact, I think there's a book called The Leader Who Had No Title. I think it's by Robin Sharma, if I'm not mistaken. But to me, a title is just a little, it's how you act with your team, all the things that you do for your team and with your team that put you into a leadership position. Just because you have the 100K title doesn't mean that you're a leader. Might mean that you've done something, but I wouldn't necessarily, in fact, I never equate title to leadership. What I want to see you guys do, honestly, is I'd love to see you guys be a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar company. And I think the direction that you're heading with the products that you have, with the company or the countries that you're opening, you have that opportunity. But here's the thing. I think also everybody who's on this webinar, it has to be in cooperation with one another. Everybody's got to be on the same page with the same goal to be as productive, as efficient, as in phase 1 as possible, serving have a servant's attitude towards not what can you do for me, but how can I assist you to get you the things that you want in your life through this opportunity, rather than what can you, like a boss, for example. It's a boss in a job is very different than a leader in a network marketing business. And so when you're building the thing I just mentioned, this whole idea of building past your rank, in fact, I literally I don't remember what book I was reading, but it was like 3 or 4 days ago, because I'm reading like a bunch of books right now, but it was talking about finishing a race. Like, you have the finish line, and a lot of times these racers are coming up to the finish line and they see the finish line as their stopping point. So ultimately what they end up doing is they're slowing down to the finish line. What you should be doing is looking at your finish point 20 yards beyond the finish line. And so you actually accelerate through the finish line. That's what I'm talking about when I mean building past your rank. And if you can act that way, you'll never hit a rank and then fall back on that rank and not having been paid on it, or not. You might be, in other words, you're 100K paid as 100K and never not as 100K. To me, that means you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, and one thing I'll add to that too that's important is when you're brand new in the industry, there's a different mindset than when you're a top income earner, an A-level elite network marketer. And I'll tell you, in my opinion, what the difference is. The difference is when you're brand new or you're newer to network marketing, your goal is very much centered around you. For instance, it's what rank can you hit? It's what paycheck can you earn in the company? It's what does your lifestyle look like, and all these various things. But the bigger you get in the industry, the less it becomes about your rank, and the more it becomes about how many people in your organization are ranking up. Because you could be the top rank in the company with a lot of lower level leadership, and your business isn't as sustainable because you don't have true leadership in your organization. So for me, when I was a distributor in my previous company, I made it a focus to help the folks in my organization get to the highest rank in the company, because I knew that if I had, think about it, if out of the top income earners in the company, if they were in my team, then I was going to have the most sustainable business. So early on, my focus was, okay, I got to rank up. I got to build my story. I got to get to an income level. But that really shifted into, let me look at my organization and who are my top producers? Who are my leaders that I can run with and help them get to, the next level? So in that company, there were like 12 people that hit the top rank, and 7 of them were in my organization. So it gave me more market share as a leader, and it helped me build a sustainable business. So if let's say you're 100K right now, but you don't have anybody in your organization that's a 50K or equal to your rank, then, that should be a focus for you, is helping your organization get to the same level of leadership that you are. And long term, what you really want is you want people in your team to outrank you. Imagine that. What if somebody in your organization outranked you, got to a higher rank than you got? Then you're really setting the world on fire. If you can do that enough times. I mean, now, fortunately, we're in a really good comp plan where if you have people that are ranking up in your organization, you will be ranking up as well. But there are a lot of comp plans in the industry where that's not the case, where you could have people ranking up and they could be breaking away from you, and you wouldn't necessarily get to the next level in rank. But here it's actually a lot easier in the comp plan to rank up. But the point is you really kind of start out with it's really about you personally, and you should shift that into helping your organization rise up and get to the next level.
Absolutely. And while you're helping other people, you're still producing, you're still in phase 1. So I can guarantee that Josh, when he looked at those people, he didn't go, well, I'm going to stop recruiting while I'm helping those people. He was continuing to recruit and build while helping those people. So that's an important important point. You know, you actually brought something up that leads into the next kind of topic of conversation. It's like if somebody passes me, like to me, I'm like, dude, pass me right on by, brother. I hope you're better than me. Come on, keep on going. Like, go, man. I'm totally game for having people that are better than me. But sometimes what that does with people is, you know, sometimes I think people think it's a popularity contest. And it's something I learned a long time ago. I don't know if I don't know if Robert Hollis is on this or not, but he and I know this background because we started out at the same time, you know, in the same company. And there were two things. There was either politics or there was production, and the two don't mix. It's like oil and water, right? So that's something that you have to understand as a leader that, you know, if you get caught up in menial things like drama, negativity, he said, she said, why is this person getting more attention than I am? You know, those kinds of things, like anytime you get caught up in that stuff, you end up, it takes away from your production. In fact, like I know we don't work in a training center. Like when I started in network marketing, we had all these different training centers all over the world. And you would literally show up at an office with like 20 associates, 20 affiliates, if you will. And we would have a desk and we would be working. And then we had business meetings during the day where people would come in. And we were taught, and I remember this because I was super young when I started, we were taught that, look, hey, if you got problems, everybody's got problems. I mean, everybody's got challenges and problems in their life. I don't care how successful you are. You got problems, you got challenges. But the lock on your car door serves a purpose. You get out of your car, you leave the problems in the car, you shut the door, you lock it, you come into the office, you bring your A game, you bring the best version of yourself, and you don't bring drama, negativity, toxic crap, stuff, water cooler, blah, blah, blah. You know, this person was doing this. Hey, I heard that. Oh, but I'm on an inside leg and you're not. Well, what about that? I was supposed to get spillover, whatever the stuff is. None of that came into the office. And the thing that I realized, because I had problems in my life at that time, and I came and I brought my game face. And then I went back out to my car where I literally locked my problems in my car. And then I was like, I don't want to wallow in this stuff. And it actually helped me to focus on solutions rather than the problem, because I was taught, leave the problem in the car. So I did. And then I got done with my workday and I was like, oh my God, my problem's in there. I don't know if I want to deal with that because the problem doesn't feel fun. So I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Josh, but I teach a lot of different network marketing companies, and you get people that kind of get caught up in stuff, and it just completely takes them away from what they should be doing, which is producing.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I've seen that a lot. And, you know, Jen did a couple leadership trainings recently. If you guys go into our My Daily Choice official group, or you go onto Jen's page, you'll see some of the leadership training that she did. And she spent a lot of time on, you know, this aspect of leadership where it's like what you focus on grows, right? So you have to be very careful what you focus on, what you give attention to, where you spend your energy, because that's what's going to manifest in your organization. So drama, complaints, negativity, and I like what you said about toxic people. Look, I've always said that people are in your business, in your life. People are either here. People are here for a reason, or they're here for a season. Okay, they're here for a reason, or they're here for a season. And as a leader, sometimes people's season, they're over. You have to move on from people that are just wasting your time, toxic, you know, attitude, and just their vibe is just they're always down, complaining about everything. That's not how you're going to get to super affiliate or the top rank in the company. That's not how you're going to build a massive organization. So one thing that's really helped me kind of stay in check, because I feel like it's easy to get wrapped up in that stuff, right? It's like it's when you're in the trenches and something's just dumped on you, it's easy to get wrapped up in it. But from time to time, what's really helped me, you know, when I was, you know, building, is I would ask myself, is what I'm doing right now going to take my business to the next level? Right now, the time that I'm spending, is this going to take me to the next level, take me to where I want to go? And usually the answer was no when I was dealing with drama and complaints. And so I agree 100%, politics or production. The two don't mix. You got to choose which lane do you want to be in. Do you want to be a top producer or do you want to be, dealing with drama all day? And, make that choice and make it quickly, because the two don't really cross over. You don't see a lot of people that, are top producers that are all of a sudden, into drama, or into politics. So to get to the top rank in the company, you want to be a producer. You don't want to be dealing with politics, drama, complaints, negativity, toxic people that are cynical, people that are bringing you down. You don't need that crap. Just move on and focus on the right people, the right conversations, and being in phase one.
Yeah, man. If I was building the field and I had people jib jab, blah, 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 I'm like, bro, I don't have time for it. I've only got time for production. If you want to go bitch and complain to somebody else, you can go do it, but I'm going to go back to production. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't address or help a problem if it needed to be solved, but I'm not going to wallow in it. And I think you guys really need to think about that and look at your situation. If you've got drama, negativity, politics, stuff like that going on, he said, she said, whatever, you need to be aware of it, and you need to address it immediately and get yourself back into production. And the funny thing is like human beings, we feed on drama. Like seriously, like it's the dramatic headlines that pull us in. So like just human nature is we're like drawn, like you see an accident on the road and everybody's like, you gotta look at the accident on the road. It's our nature, but you have to be aware, because it's part of our nature, that in business, the two don't mix. So I want to shift the subject real quickly and talk about, if you're in a slump or a slow spot or a doldrum, what do you do about it? And there's probably not, you guys are rocking, so I'm sure there's nobody in a slump or a slow spot or a doldrum, or maybe the recruiting isn't what it should be, but just in case it is, I wanted to, kind of bring that subject matter up. And why don't you, like, just, because look, you're both owner and you have extensive field experience as well. What would your advice be if somebody was in a slump, a doldrum, a slow spot, or things were maybe slipping or moving in the wrong direction? What advice would you give them?
Well, I would say, number one, you gotta prospect your way out of it, right? Like that's the only way to not be stuck, is you have to start prospecting and making as many personal connections as you possibly can. Because anytime that I feel stuck in my career, it's an indicator to me that I'm not serious enough. Like that may not be you, that's me. Like if I'm feeling stuck, or like I'm not, living to my full potential, then to me it's like I need to get serious again. I need to get my Rolodex out. I need to start making calls. I need to start prospecting. I need to start reaching out to people. I need to start building more relationships. I need to start networking, right? Those are the things that go through my mind, if I feel like I'm stuck. I make it kind of a daily routine, and I commit to it that every day I'm going to be networking, prospecting, and maybe you come up with a rule like 80% of your time you're focused on being in phase one and prospecting. And then maybe the other 20% of your time you're doing Zoom calls for your team, or training calls, or three-way calls. And you have to start putting a focus on money-making activities. Like there's a lot of things in this industry, and you know this, Todd, firsthand. There's a lot of things that lead to people wasting time, right? There's just a lot of, people get unbelievably distracted in this industry. Whether it's, check out, this new company over here, look at what they're doing. And then for the next 3 months, all they're doing is talking about a different company, right? Or, I can't believe that this is happening in my business, and they spend all of their energy on the one negative thing that's happening. And there could be 100 positive things happening in their business, but what do they want to focus on? The one negative thing. So I think you just have to kind of do some self-reflection and look at yourself as a leader and say, Like, am I really spending the like all the time that I'm investing in the business? Am I spending that on the right activities? And am I driving the right message to my organization? So that's kind of what I go through when I feel that, you know, I'm stuck. But I always step forward into growth, right? I think you, like, as a leader, you have two options. You can step forward into growth, or you can go backwards trying to play it safe. So maybe if you're stuck, you need to double down on your efforts. You need to 10x your efforts. So if you're only talking to 3 people a day, maybe you need to talk to 30 a day. If you're only talking to 10 people a day, maybe you need to talk to 50 a day, right? You need to double down on your efforts and step forward into growth, because that's the only way that you're going to get unstuck, is you've got to prospect your way out of it. So that would be my advice. But Todd, I'm curious to see what your thoughts are.
Well, my answer is essentially the same. The only way you can get out of a doldrum, slump, or slow spot is to recruit your way out of it. I mean, if things aren't going well, you yelling at your team that are not producing ain't going to help you, right? Oh, get to work, you guys. Come on, let's go. That ain't going to help. What you got to do is you got to go. I mean, if they're not working, then go find somebody else who is. That's the other thing. That's why look, I mean, again, the reality is people attrit out of this business no matter what. I mean, you can do things and I've got very specific things that I do from a customer retention and a distributor retention standpoint that I teach and that I do. But the only way out of a slow spot, it definitely is to build your way out of that slow spot. Like if you're like, you got to imagine I'm backed up against the wall. What are you going to do? You know, when you get into that fight or flight deal, are you going to come out swinging as if your life depended on it? Or are you going to flop down and just, I'm done? And I think, you know, human nature is we're either going to run from it or we're going to fight it. And if you're going to be successful in this business, and if you hit like a flat spot, you can't just go, oh, I've hit a flat spot, gee willikers. That's just, oh, okay. You got to just get in there and get back to phase one. Like, like in my opinion, and this is a phrase that I use often, never does a day pass. Never, ever, ever does a single day pass without me doing some form of personal production, new revenue producing activity. So I would say to you, from a leadership and just building perspective, if you have any day that you're working your My Daily Choice business pass and you didn't personally do something to go drum up some new business, then you're really not in the business, because you tell me what else is there. Yes, you need to grow and develop your mindset and your skills, all of those things. You need to support and work with your team, not manage and oversee and, you know, sit there and watch them, but to help those people. But every single day, and if you make this your rule as a leader, never does a day pass without me doing X. You think of what the X is. Like, I run accountability programs, and one of the things that I have people do one of the first or second weeks is I want you to commit to a number that you can live to every single day without fail in terms of a base activity level, right? So, and everybody's got different hours and time availability, so it's different for everybody. But let's say it was a part-time network marketer. And if this becomes like your rule, like, you don't leave your house naked, I don't think. I mean, some of you might, probably not, but you wake up, you put some clothes on, maybe you showered, maybe you didn't, hopefully you brush your teeth, and then you leave your house. You don't go run out naked, because it's actually a law, right? It's called indecent exposure. You would have broken the law, and if somebody sees you, they're going to call the cops for some crazy naked person running down the street. So we kind of, that's like a built-in thing that we know. We don't leave our house naked. I know it's kind of a weird example, but if you make it your law, your rule, that never does a day pass without me doing X, you pick out what that X is. Is it 5 reach outs a day? Is it 10? Is it 2? Is it 20? But the thing I would like for you to do is think about a number that you can live up to without fail. That means you have a goal that you hit, an activity goal that you hit every single day, and that you're not letting yourself down. Because some of you are like, 20. Okay, dude, are you telling me that you're going to reach out to 20 people a day, every single day without fail, with no exceptions whatsoever? I mean, that's a great number to shoot for. And maybe some of you have the time capacity availability to do that. But if it's shooting for the stars and you're always missing, you're going to feel like you're in a state of disappointment. But if I said, look, my bare minimum every single day is I don't go to bed until I've reached out to 5 people a day. Like I can't go to bed yet because I haven't done my 5 or whatever that number is. But then you can't lip it. You need to live it. That's something you can't just talk it, because it's one thing to talk a game and it's an entirely different thing to live it. And then the second part of coming out of a doldrum or a slump, and I think a lot of network marketers, whether they're in a slump or not, do this, is they're not really intentional about the way they build. And I think when you build with a level of purpose and intentionality, then it's a very different thing than just throwing people out to the tour and keeping your fingers crossed that they're going to respond favorably. Like, it's like I'm hoping that they're going to respond and join me in my business. It's like, if I was building this deal, I want you. Josh, look, brother, let's chat. Take this tour. I want you to take a look at it. I'm calling you a little bit later. Josh, did you take the tour? Yes. Or I saw you took the tour. Let's chat about it. How do you feel about what you just saw? Look, I'm telling you right now, this is the biggest business project that I've ever done in my entire life. I want you part of it. I want you part of my team. We're going to go do this together. That's a very different, I'm not saying use that exact language, if you will, but it's very different than, hey, I'm waiting around for Thursday to come along and to see if Josh upgraded. Did he upgrade? I hope he does. Oh, he didn't upgrade. That's very different. And I would say, with or without a slump, a majority of network marketers, and I've worked with a lot of people. I've been doing this for a long time. I can't even count how many people. It's too many to even count. They just kind of go through the motions. And if you're going to be a leader and if you're going to be successful in this business, you need to be a leader to be successful. It can't be just going through the motions. It has to be done with a high degree of intention, very specific intention. You know what you want. You're going to make it happen. You're not wishing and hoping that somebody's going to join. You're on a mission, and nothing is going to stop you from obtaining that end goal of whatever that mission is to get to wherever your ultimate objective or place it is that you want to be in your life. So I think for sure, Josh, there is no other way than to recruit I don't know if there is there any other way? I gotta build my way out of this thing. I gotta climb my way out of this hole that I've gotten myself into, because there's nobody else up there. Hello, is there anybody there that can help me? And you're like yelling for days, and nobody's up there. You're like out in the middle of, can you imagine you're out in the middle of the woods and you fell into a hole, and they're like out in the wilderness, and the only person that's going to hear you is the local bear, and the local bear just wants to eat you. You got to figure out how to make a step in the wall, even if it takes you digging with your fingernails to put your foot in there, grab another piece of footing, whatever you got to do to get the heck out of there. So you have to build your way out of whatever doldrum you might be in. So
I like what you said too about don't just throw the tour out there. I know Aaron Barker, I see him in the chat here, he always says to point, guide, and direct. So it's not just you don't just throw the tour out there and I got my 10 contacts for the day. I put my link out there and I'm good. I mean, there's a true exposure, which is not just pointing them to the presentation, but guiding them through the presentation and then directing them to, the various different options for them to enroll, and then following up with that prospect as well. So, those if you were to break it down into 3 steps, those would be the steps, right? Where you're pointing someone to the presentation, guiding them through the presentation, directing them, and then following up with that prospect until they make a decision whether they're going to be a customer or they're going to be an affiliate and a business builder. So if you're doing just step 1, where you're just pointing people, then you are kind of, wishing and hoping. It's the wish and hope model, right? Where you're wishing and you're hoping that person is going to take action on their own. Someone's going to magically answer all their questions. Someone's going to be there to support. You don't know. You're just pointing them to your site. So I think, part of prospecting is not just, it's not just how many people can you send your link to? How many people can you pre-enroll? It's really taking prospects through an effective presentation and then doing the required, follow-up. I think there's you probably know this statistic, Todd, but was it like the 7th time that they need to be followed up with before you make the first sale, or 6 or 7 times or something like that. But I think there's a statistic out there where the more you follow up, the better chance you are in converting your prospects into, real buyers. So I think what you said is golden. And the other thing I would say is, if you are in a slump or your business is down, I think it's a direct correlation to how much value you're putting into the marketplace. Like 100%. Like if you're not talking to a lot of people and putting a lot of value, then that's going to be a correlation to how your business looks. So, maybe you should ask yourself, how many people are you talking to every day? How much value am I adding to my organization? How much value am I putting out there in the marketplace? And then, then do your analysis on where your business is at. And I think you said this in a previous training, Todd. It was something like, deposits and withdrawals, right? Where it's like, in order for you to get withdrawals from your business, you need to be making deposits into your organization. So I really like that from one of your previous trainings.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you cannot make a withdrawal from an empty account. I was doing a 12-week training with a group of people, and I had a guy, and he, like, there's a phrase that's been thrown out there: marry the process, but divorce the result. So be married to the process, but essentially, but unattached to the result is probably a more accurate definition. But here's what this guy did. I want to make sure you guys don't do this. Is he got so focused on the numbers, so focused on just like putting people through the system and putting people through the tour, if you will, isn't a different company, but putting people through the process, that he didn't really care whether they joined or not. I care whether you join or not. It's like, he was like, I'm just going through the numbers, and whatever shakes out is going to shake out. And then I was like, and I was looking at his numbers, and then he wasn't recruiting, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, well, I'm marrying the process, but divorcing the result. So he was just so focused on kind of rushing through the numbers that he wasn't giving the prospect the appropriate attention that they deserved. And as soon as we had this discussion, like, bam, the next week he had recruited 5 people. I was like, what happened? He goes, I actually cared. I was like, oh, good, man. So look, being unattached to the result means, oh, if you don't join, I'm going to go into a state of depression. And I don't know if it's like you go into no longer working mode because somebody didn't join you. If you don't join me, I don't care. I'm going to go find somebody else who is going to join me. But I'm certainly going to do everything I can to make sure you clearly understand this. And I do care whether you join or not, because guess what? I wouldn't even have reached out to you if I didn't care. So you have to do both. You have to be attached to making sure that you're getting the right numbers in, but you need to make sure you take the time to connect enough with somebody to actually make that transaction happen. So, Josh, let's talk real quick about look. I don't know, duplication is like one of the biggest questions I get in leadership conversations is duplication. Like, in fact, it's like kind of that's like the holy grail of network marketing is duplication. So I have my thoughts on that. I'll give you them quickly, and then I'd love to hear your insight on that. To me, when I think about duplication, first of all, I can't be duplicated. You can't be duplicated. We're our own individual. People can't be duplicated. And not that you can't, look at a person and model their behavior. I think modeling is a very good thing. Looking at what somebody's doing and doing your best to emulate what it is that they're doing. Those are very, very good qualities. In fact, that's how I really began to create success. But the 2 words that I think about when I think about duplication are systems and simplicity. So if you want to create more duplication, you have to have a systematic process. And by the way, corporately you guys do, which is so cool. Like, do you know how many, just let me tell you something, just so you guys that are just here and you haven't been in another deal before. Very few companies, like almost none actually, unfortunately, have the kind of systems, marketing systems at play that come from corporate. Like, I don't know how much your experience is, but like for you guys that are new, you're like, oh, we got these cool websites and all this stuff and this tour and it doesn't, like most companies, like most don't have that.
Like 99%.
Like literally 99%. Like they just don't have it. So like some of you guys that have been around for a while, you're like, holy smokes, look what I've got. Why doesn't everybody have systems like this? Those of you that this is your first rodeo, you don't know that, but now you do. And you should be very fortunate that you have systems and processes to funnel people through to take a look at it. I would also just say that that post enrollment of an affiliate, that you don't complicate the issue. And there's a phrase that I use pretty frequently. I used it in a training that I produced about 7 years ago. So simple, a 7-year-old could do it. So when you look at starting somebody, if you're creating things that are complicated, you're making a mistake. And I'll give you a really quick example, and then I'll let Josh share. I had a coaching client of mine that made, what did she make? She made $2.4 million her first 27 months. Never done network marketing. Think about that. Just think about the numbers. 2.4 million in 27 months. That's big money. Okay. Straight up. I don't care who you are. That's straight up big money. And then she, 2.5 years into building her business, she hired me as a one-on-one coach. And she was frustrated because her business started to stagnate. It's like the people that she was starting, they weren't starting. And she's like, what the hell's going on here? I can't figure it out. And I'm like, well, what are you doing differently? And you'd think she might have seen this, but she didn't. And so she goes, well, I changed my get started training that I was providing my people. And I'm like, well, send me the old one and send me the new one. And the old one was like 2 pages, like get started here. This is what you do. It was like very easy. The new one, you ready for this? Was like 102 pages. It was like literally a manual to get started in the business. And I was like, girlfriend, there's your problem. I understand that now you know more than you did then. So you might want to include a few other things, but you don't need all of that stuff. I mean, you can use that for advanced training, but not for how to now right this second get started in the business. So we had her redo her whole kit, her little welcome thing that she was doing. And I think she took it from 102 pages and ended up being 4. And within a period of months, the people that she was starting were actually starting. So systems and simplicity, and you being the example, which we've already talked about at the beginning of this, leading through your own actions. People are going to do the things that they see you doing. How about you, Josh? What do you think?
Yeah, I think you made some really good points. I think you have to keep it simple because confused people don't take action. It's just the way it is. If you're confused, then you're going to spend the majority of your time figuring out why you're confused. You're not going to be talking to new people if you're confused. So confused people don't do anything in the business. So your goal as a leader is to keep it very simple for your team. And one of the best ways to keep it simple is by following the company system that Todd talked about and that we have available at My Daily Choice. And, I'm really passionate about this topic because, we are in that small percentage of network marketing companies that I feel got it right with internet marketing. But let me kind of break down my philosophy for systems and duplication. One is the system that we have at My Daily Choice is part of the culture. It's part of their back office. It's not, there's no setup required. There's no external websites that they have to go to. There's none of that. It's part of the company culture. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, it's free. There is no $29.95 a month. There's no monthly fee for it. So you should have zero resistance from your organization by plugging them into the system. Okay. The system does, some of the heavy lifting. That when prospects opt in, there's now a 4-step presentation process, right? Where step 1, they get to learn about who we are as a company. They get to go to step 2. They learn about the various different product lines, HempWorks, Mantra, High Life Travel, our sprays. Step 3, they get to learn about the compensation plan. And then step 4, they learn about the different packages to getting started and whether, they want to come in, for $69 or $599. It talks about getting started and the timing of the business. So if knowing that as a leader, that there's various capture pages that appeal to different audiences, and then a simple 4-step tour that takes them through the process, wouldn't it make sense to drive that as your duplication system through your organization? So it's always fascinating to me when people come into, not just our company, but throughout the industry, and then they build something and it's like, look, this is the duplication system. It's not proven. They're not a top rank in the company, but yet they're deviating from something that's already working. So now their team's confused, distracted, using something that hasn't been proven, and that is going to be a reflection of the volume and how fast people are ranking up in their group. So I always have told people that, follow the system, become a prospecting machine, get your team focused on creating as many pre-enrollees, directing people through the door, following up, money-making activities. But another thing you can do as a leader, which, I did this a lot, and Todd, I'm sure, you've done this as well, is when I was looking at my organization, I always was a master at taprooting. Like, sometimes you get people in your organization where they may not be the best leader, but they may know people who could wind up being really strong leaders, or they could have contacts that wind up being top income earners or top producers in your team, but they're not reaching out to them. Okay, so what I did is every person that I worked with in my organization when I was building, and this is how I built to 50,000 people, did 100 million in sales, in a smaller startup company. This is how I did it. Every single person I worked with, I told them they had 24 hours to send me a list of 25 names. Every single person. 24 hours to send me a list of 25 names. And I wasn't going to go call their people for them, but I was going to hold them accountable that they were reaching out to their list. So if they quit and I'm in a conversation with them, I'd say, well, how many out of your 25 did you talk to? And they'd say, well, 0. And then I could start reaching out to those prospects on their behalf. Or if they're an active leader in the business, you can coach them through the first couple, the first couple phone calls, and then teach them how you do it so that they can duplicate that with their organization. So I use that as a tool. And think about it. If you enroll 10 people in 24 hours, you're going to have 250 warm market names that you can now start working with your organization. So it's kind of a great, I've learned it was a great activity for me to get my people thinking about their list. And it's that's one of the most basic things in MLM, go build your list. But how many people in your organization have actually sent you their list, and you're holding them accountable that they're getting those people pre-enrolled and taking them through the tour? That's probably a different conversation. But taprooting, you just, you got to work with your, for the folks in your organization that are active, you got to start taprooting and reaching out with them to their warm market contacts. So that's what I would say for duplication is follow the system, become a prospecting machine, get your team focused on money-making activities, and drive your lines of leadership. Start taprooting.
Absolutely. So, here's the deal, you guys. We Josh and I wanted to have just a straight up conversation. None of this is scripted. We're just going, right? When you got two very experienced people talking to you, we don't have to sit here with a notepad or a PowerPoint presentation. We knew what we were going to want to talk about. Obviously, we're not going to spend hours and hours here because both of us are super busy. But look, bottom line is, you guys are in such a great look. Again, I'm the outsider looking in, but I'm kind of on the inside looking in because the amount of work that I've done with you guys as a company is probably a lot more than I have with a lot of companies. I have some pretty tight relationships with other companies, but I would say I'm pretty tight with you guys in terms of just, being in the ether. So, it's important to me. I want to see this company win big. And the only way the company wins big is for all of you to win big. And the only way for you to win big is you have to. This isn't kind of maybe, this is, yes, I have to up my leadership IQ. And so if your desire, and I saw all those people that said top leader, top leader, top leader, and you're still here at the tail end of this, that's a good sign, but you have to act on it in order for you to get there. And it's a journey. It's not like I snap my fingers and I'm a leader, or I hit a title and I'm a leader.